Hello and welcome to Chapter 8 Lab. So for this lab, we are going to be actually measuring two things at the same time. We're going to be measuring the electrical activity of your muscular system and nervous system in your forearm and the pressure that you exert on the little blood pressure ball thing that came with your reach. And so I'm going to be doing this video in parts. So I'm going to try and explain how things go in terms of using the device. You are going to need the little ball thing. You're going to need this little pipe right here, and I'm going to show you how to attach that in just a second. Of course, you're going to need the reach device itself. Need the USB cord to attach the reach to your computer. Pop open those electrodes here. These are self-sticking, self-gelled electrodes. Very cool stuff. And these are the actual electrodes. This thing opens up sort of like your salami package. There's open up the little bag and take out these little wires. And you'll see that one end, this end right here, plugs into the color-coded parts of the reach. And these parts right here, these will snap on to the little buttons that are on the electrodes. So that provides the connection as it explains in the actual lab itself. Now these are all color coded. I'm going to unwrap all of these, and instruction number one, this little pipe right here actually, and I don't believe there's any difference as to which end goes into what, but the end goes into there, and you kind of screw it on. Just make it nice and snug. So now that's sticking out of there. And in a very cool aspect of design, this plugs in to the little right on the top. So then it plugs in the same way, goes right in there, and it screws in as well. It's nice and tight. And what you see is you can actually hold it up, right, just like that. So this plug, and you'll see that it doesn't, and it's measuring. There's a little diaphragm inside of there that is measuring the pressure that I'm exerting on here. Very cool design. So that's this piece. Of course, you're going to take your USB cable and you're going to plug in the USB-C end into the end of the reach, and the regular USB part, this one, goes into your computer. And the light comes on. Now for this particular lab, we're going to be hooking up, believe 3 electrodes that are going to go along your arm, and that's going to send recording data to 2 or 3 electrodes along your arm, and that will send recording information as to the electrical activity that's going on in your arm to measure how much electrical activity and stimulus is going into that muscle tissue, while at the same time you're squeezing that ball, and the ball is sending a signal to the reach to measure the pressure that you're exerting on that. So let's get into the software and the lab itself. Now that this is all hooked up, I can start the reach software. And you'll see as the reach software comes up that it detects my device, and that's very cool. And in order to go to this lab, you go into settings, and then muscle, and then grip force. It's going to update the screen, and it's going to update this little web page that goes into the instructions. So here's the setup. The first tab here is setup, and you can see the electrodes and the reach, and we have the little pads that connect to your skin. and you attach the tube to the grip bulb, and then we're going to attach the red lead to just below our the bend in our elbow. The black one is going to go radiating away from the central or medial line of our arm to kind of capture that particular muscle. And then the green one is going to go right before our wrist. And so here's how it would look on a real live human being. Okay? Now, it's going to be important that you actually squeeze, rather than squeezing with your whole hand, that you're actually just squeezing with your fingers, because this is isolating specific muscles on your forearm that control the muscles that bend your fingers. And so rather than the entire grip of the hand, which is actually using some of the muscles up on the top, you can actually feel that when you're gripping the whole hand, you can feel tension here, whereas it's just the fingers, it's more the muscle activity right here and not as much up here. So we're trying to isolate that, so when you're gripping the ball thing, you're just squeezing it with your fingers. Okay? So I'm going to need the green, black, and red electrodes. So here's my multicolored, and there's green, black, and red. Of course, they all get tangled. It's kind of like 6 sets of iPod headphones. Irritating. So here I have them, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach them to the appropriate buttons on their reach. So the red goes into the red, and push it right in there, nice and snug. Heard a little snap as it went in. Hopefully that wasn't it breaking. And then the green one goes right in the middle. Yeah. And the black one, that's right in between them. The one on the end is brown. The colors are kind of... So you see, and they're nice and snug in there. There's nothing sticking out. You know, and you have the balls hanging down there. And so now that I have these leads right here, what you want to do is, while these are still on here, you want to snap these in. They snap just like clothing buttons, but you don't want to put them on your arm, because you have to kind of put a little pressure on them for them to snap in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to snap these into the first 3 of these electrodes, so that it snaps. You'll hear it. There it goes. And then I'll take the black one, getting that headphone effect over here, all tangled up. And I'm going to snap the black one in, and then I'm going to snap the red one in. And see, there I have the electrodes are hooked up, the reach is hooked up to my computer. Look at that. That is science in its most elegant fashion. This is really great. So you have the option in this lab to either do this on yourself, which is what the reach was designed for, or you can find a willing or unwilling little brother or sister to do this with. There is no pain involved in this. The reach actually does not have a stimulating feature to it, which was much to my chagrin. Because those can make for some really interesting labs as well. It just records, and so I'm going to pull up the sleeve here. I'm going to do it myself, but feel free to do it on yourself, do it on the whole family, gather them all around the table, hook them up. If you ever run out of these because you've been playing around, I am going to be extremely happy, because I have thousands of these, and I will get you some more. So don't worry at all about that. So you take these and you peel them away from the plastic sheet, and I'm going to put it right on my arm. Right there. And I'm going to put the black one on. And I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to take my watch off. And I'm going to take the green one, and put it right on my wrist. So there. You can see that I've hooked this up myself. set these aside. I have the reach right here. I have the bulb in one hand. That's going to actually be in the same hand that the electrodes are in. That would have been really strange. And let's go back to the reach software. So here we are. We have set this up. And the first and only experiment that you're going to do involves exercise 1. And what exercise 1 does, the procedure, you can read there. You are going to be squeezing the bulb with your hand using just the fingers. And the recording that you should get should look similar to this screen. Over here on the bottom, this is the pressure that you've exerted. And you can see it's a rounded curve because as you began to compress, right here, this is when you started to squeeze, you squeezed more and more, and then it kind of plateaued, and then it went down here, and then you're not squeezing it, and then up here you're squeezing it, and you can see that this person squeezed it harder each time, and that's what you can do. That you can do harder and softer, and kind of mess around with that. And what this over here is doing, this is measuring the electrical activity in your muscle. So as you squeeze this hard, this is the electrical activity. As you squeeze this hard, this is the electrical activity. And you can see pretty visible that there was a lot more electrical activity as this person squeezed the ball harder. So we're going to try and replicate that. And then we're going to go into collecting some data from that. But let's go ahead and minimize this. And I'm going to go right into some recording here. Okay, so I'm going to conduct this experiment here. You can see my arm has the 3 electrodes. Going here, I have the squeeze ball in my hand. And you can see the results that are going to appear right here when I press the record button. Now I'm resting my arm as much as possible here, and when I press the record button, I'm going to squeeze the ball gently at first and then gradually increase the strength that I'm using to exert pressure on the ball. Okay, and there you see my recordings. And what you're actually seeing too is some relatively high degree of muscle tone that's sitting in my arm right now, because the actual tension in my muscle never goes down to that kind of very narrow place that that you see in the example. So let's take a look at this graph here and figure out what we do. So first and foremost, what we want to do is we click this little magnifying glass that has the double arrows in it, and we click that in order to focus on our to bring it, all the levels will come into the view of the screen. And you'll see where we're going to have to guess here a little bit because it's not as vivid as it is in the example. But you can see the peaks here in my my exerting pressure. This is the electrical activity right up here, and this is the relative pressure that I'm exerting on the ball as it becomes greater and greater. So what we want to do is, in order to analyze this, we want to click this over here. It's again a magnifying glass, and it's looking very much at the little waveform right there, but you click that, and that's going to open up information right here that is going to be vital. So what I want to, the data I want to collect is, while I was exerting this much, while I was engaging this electrical activity right here, probably from around here to about here, corresponding to that pressure right there, how much electrical activity was going on and how much pressure. So I take these little red lines here, and I move this red line to right around where I began, looking right up here, where the pressure started going up. And I take this other red line, and I move that over to when it kind of returned to normal, right around there, sort of. Yeah, I think the rest of them are going to be a little easier to read than this one. So here's the electrical activity, and here's the pressure. And we get those numbers right here. The instantaneous measure right there gives a 2.594. That's a average electrical activity value for what's going on in this area. And then right down here is the pounds per square inch, the PSI. These are microvolts, so 2.594 microvolts of average electrical activity corresponds with 15.475 PSIs. So you write that down. So let's get our Excel spreadsheet going on here. We'll bring that right up. Taking a little bit of time. There we go. All right, so here I have Excel, and you don't have to put any labels or anything. I'm just going to write 2.594 on that column, and that corresponds with 15.475. So that is my first data set right there. Okay. Now, I'm going to move this out of the way. Here. And now I want to get my second reading. So I kind of go to the beginning of that pressure right there. And kind of went right around. It's kind of estimates here about where it ended right there. And now two different values. I have 4.007 as my average electrical activity, and I have 20.553. So let's bring up Excel again, and I'm going to go ahead and put that data in there. And we move on to the next one here. And there. I'm going to start seeing a pretty straightforward relationship here between these values. And in these ones, my value is 4.138. That wasn't much stronger. And the pressure was 23.447. Let's again look at this one. Right around there. Right around there. And my Excel 6.607. 24.952. Do this one over here from around there. I'm going to get some pretty high values here. Right around there. My microvolts value is 8.103 and 28.718. 28.718. And finally, because I did 6 of these, my most forceful, here, right around there, and microvolts were 11.362, and the pressure was 43.125. So what you want to do is take a screenshot of this, get rid of the Excel for a bit, take a screenshot of this, and I can see where you've actually, what you've actually recorded, and place that into your paper. And in addition, you're going to take a screenshot of here, but we're going to calculate the correlation between this column and this column. Clearly, there's a positive correlation because as these went up, these went up. I think we're going to have a really high correlation. So in order to have Excel calculate the correlation relationship between columns A and columns B, you place you just select any cell and you press the equals, and this brings up the function characteristics within Excel, and you start to type correlation, all in capital letters, C-O-R, right there. So you select correlation, and then the first array is going to be these, and the second array is going to be these, and you put a comma between them. So right now you can see equals, correl, open, parentheses. I click here and drag to select all of those. I place a comma, and then I select this column and drag right there. And then I close the parentheses. It takes a little bit of mouse work to make this happen. But so what we're going to do is what is the correlation between the numbers that are in A1 through A6 and the numbers that are B1 and B6. I press return. Oops, that's a period. I meant to put a comma. There. Now that's going to be better. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. Return. There we go. Sorry, I put a period instead of comma there. Now we see, look at this. 0.96 correlation. So that's the figure right there. So you should get something pretty high. This is a very, very straightforward relationship between these two. And here we have, this is the amount of electrical activity involved in that area, and the pressure that we exert is almost a one-to-one relationship as they go up. 0.966. That's a really, really high correlation. Take a screenshot of this, answer the questions that I have in the lab, and you are all done. So enjoy doing this lab.